Coronavirus is not a manifestation that we're all equal and the same, that we all transcend race, national borders. Yes, the infection of COVID-19 does not discriminate, but the response and the impact of quarantine and lockdown reveals and is revealing the inequalities in the world. It discriminates. A mantra that has been circulating around the impact, the global impact of coronavirus since it commenced, since December, intensified actually in March, is that coronavirus, COVID-19, has revealed that we're all the same. COVID-19 does not discriminate. The high, the low, upper class, middle class, lower class, across borders, coronavirus, COVID-19 does not discriminate. Yes, in terms of its impact, maybe, but coronavirus as well is revealing the inequalities in the world right now. What social distancing mean social distancing in New York, in Toronto, in Ottawa is different from social distancing in Delhi, in Lagos. Coronavirus, the impact of coronavirus in terms of its ability to infect may not discriminate, but coronavirus is revealing significant major discrimination around the world. It's telling us the major way in which coronavirus is being contained, which is lockdown and quarantine. That process, the major response mechanism for coronavirus is revealing serious discrimination. Now, in Canada, the government of Canada has put forward almost $1 trillion in emergency aid to cushion the impact on businesses, to cushion the impact on individuals, to ensure food security is not a critical issue, to manage and address the humanitarian impact of coronavirus and the lockdown. So it's not just coronavirus and COVID-19 that these emergency measures are intended to address. They're intended to manage the impact of the lockdown and quarantine. In the United States, this runs to the trillions. What is the capacity of the so-called developing South to address the impact of containing, restraining, leveling the curve of the spread of coronavirus? That is where the inequalities in the world is being revealed. This tells us a very serious message. The developing world, most countries in Africa, have been depending on humanitarian aid handout to address the impact of humanitarian needs in the continent. Sometimes, and most times, and I think even that's become the standard, at the expense of the economic development of the continent. The African countries that have been depending on humanitarian and development aid to address critical development issues in their country that they should be doing themselves must learn from what is happening in the response to the response of coronavirus. In how we are listen, let me put it bluntly. To address about 37, almost 40 million people, the impact of coronavirus in Canada, the Canadian government is coming up with over $800 billion US. The United States are in the trillions. Africans get excited when 50 million or maybe $1 billion is put forward to address the humanitarian impact of crisis for about 20, in a continent of about 200 million. Let me use Nigeria. We are seeing that this amount of money will do nothing. Ultimately, what will address and make Nigeria stable, make Africans stable, help Africans to move to the level it needs to move is a change in mindset. Stop depending on handouts. Handouts will never address the situation. Coronavirus is telling us that. the huge amount of funding that is going into humanitarian and emergency assistance under coronavirus tells me the patterns, the chicken change that has been put forward, which Africans have been relying on for decades to address humanitarian needs in the continent. Even in contexts where the issues are development, Africans settle for a humanitarian response for development issues to the detriment of the continent. So let me emphasize, for those of us who are saying coronavirus knows no borders, no race, no gender, no class, no, yes, its impact does not discriminate, but the response is revealing acute differences, acute inequality in the world. It is the response to coronavirus that is now revealing the inequalities in the world. Coronavirus is revealing the inequalities in the world because the impact of quarantine and lockdowns, which is a major way we contain the spread of coronavirus, is revealing inequalities across Africa. It's creating serious humanitarian needs in Africa. Poor people across Africa and the developing South, including India, Bangladesh, are having to choose between starving to death and quarantining. Some are saying, if I quarantine and I don't get coronavirus, I might just starve to death. That is where the inequality is revealing itself. We are not all equal under coronavirus. Coronavirus is revealing inequalities around the world. Thank you.
I'm an icon, man. And my girl about a 10. I should fuck her in the Benz.